My question is kind of out of the investment sphere. I mean, you're a big subscriber in the wisdom of Charlie Munger and Warren Buffett. What are the daily nuggets that you tell yourself every day that you've learned from the two of them?
Yeah, so I think that there are two or three, I think, very big lessons to take away from them. So one of the biggest lessons, most important trait to be a good investor is patience, and extreme patience, which is difficult for humans. So the interesting thing about equity markets is, if we look at our phones or look at screens, we've got flashing lights, red and green, and things are changing by the second and such. Real change in businesses takes years and sometimes decades. And changes in market prices of equities happens in seconds. And so the two are, in many ways, disconnected from each other. And so I think Fidelity, the big brokerage house in the US, in the mutual fund shop, they had done a study. So they have a lot of clients who open accounts with them and then manage those accounts themselves. They buy and sell stocks themselves. So they studied all these accounts that people were running on their own to try to figure out which of their clients were really good investors. And so they found that there were a set of accounts which was sitting like in the top 10% performance of all the accounts. And the overwhelming number of the people who owned those accounts, they later found fell into one of two categories. Either they were dead, which means that they had the account and then they were no longer, there was no pulse, okay? And people forgot that this account was there and it just kept going, doing really well. Or they had forgotten they had the account. Okay, so the two best performing criteria was either you were dead or you'd forgotten. Okay, and so generally speaking, activity in investing is likely to hurt you more than help you. So I think the most, Charlie Munger mentions that he's been reading Barron's for 50 years. It's a weekly magazine in the US. And he read it from like the 1960s onwards. And in 2003, after 50 years of reading Barron's, he got a stock tip from Barron's. So each issue of Barron's has about probably 10 stock tips. And so you're getting about 50 issues a year. Over 50 years is 2,500 issues, 25,000 stock tips. Okay, so he goes through all the 25,000 stock tips, picks one, okay, after 50 years, which was a company called Tenneco, auto parts and service centers and such. And in 3 years, so he puts $10 million into Tenneco in 2003. By 2006, it's worth 80 million, 8x in 3 years. And then he gives that 80 million to, for the first time in his life, an outside manager, Li Lu, investing in Chinese equities. And the 80 million is now, I think, sitting, I'm estimating, at around 800 million. So if you think about it, I mean, I can't think of more extreme patience where, 50 years, someone is throwing ideas at you, 10 a week, and you decide, no, I'm not interested, and then you finally get interested, and you actually really cream it, hit it out of the park. Cricket terms, hit a sixer out of the stadium. And then you do a 2-for, 8x and then a 10x. And he did that in 2003. He's 80 years old. So this is an 80-year-old. So if you think of Munger's track record in the last 16 years, it'd be in the top 1/10 or 1% or 1% globally. I don't know anyone else who's done 800x, 80x in this last 15 years. And so the willingness to wait for a really fat pitch is a very, very important trait.